Well, hello, 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 and welcome to So What's Your Story? I am Laquita Parks, your host, and I am so excited to be here. Today has been a day, and if you know, like I know, then you understand that. So today I have a bunch of guests in the room, and I am super excited because we're going to have a great discussion. There is a lot going on in the world, a lot. But before we hop into that, we're talking about education today. We have parents and we have educators as guests today, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to dive into some things and listen, just so you know, if you're listening, there might be some things that might be a little touchy-feely. So just prepare yourself. Okay. So who am I? I am Laquita Parks, your host. I am the CEO and founder of PayProV Publishing. And PayProV is pain, progress, victory, because I believe without pain, there is no progress. And without progress, there can be no victory. So I help people take their stories from a thought to a realization. So, a little bit about me as far as education is concerned. I worked in the school system for a long time. I used to work at Garden Hills Elementary School in Atlanta, Georgia, APS, for 7 years. And there were some things that I loved about it, and there were some things that I did not like about it. The one thing that I did love about it were the children. I enjoyed the children. I enjoyed watching them progress. I enjoyed seeing the light bulb come on. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed meeting the parents and the parents who were involved. I enjoyed that. What I did not enjoy were the politics. Did not enjoy the politics. And so I am an out of the box type of person, an out of the box thinker. And I remember my last year at Garden Hills, I used to be in the Writing to Read lab. And if you guys have been in education for a long time, you guys remember the funding for the Writing to Read lab, they ended the funding. So I used to work in the Writing to Read lab, teaching children how to write and read on the computer. They ended the funding, and I went into the classroom as a parapro. And my last year there, I worked with the guy who's an older guy, Dr. Egan. He's passed away. And I remember Dr. Egan saying, I don't think you should work you should be a teacher. And I was like, what do you mean? I think I'll be a great teacher. And he said, I know you will be a great teacher, but not in the classroom. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, because it's too confining. And I didn't have a clue what he meant then. So I ended up leaving the school system because they paired me with a teacher who was just straight crazy. And I'm just being honest. And my personality didn't match her personality. I was going through a divorce and that was too much for me. So I quit the school system and went into corporate America. And so here we are now, starting my own business. I started doing mentoring. And then when I started doing mentoring and mentoring children, it hit me what he said. It's too confining. And I understood what he meant because I'm able to reach children and I am not boggled down by the rules and regulations of the school systems. So I'm able to go in and I'm able to reach teachers and reach parents and reach students and make a difference in their lives. And I can do it in my own way. And I've been successful at it. So I'm really, really, really glad I had that opportunity and that experience. I enjoyed education. I think in order to be a publisher and do what I do and help people take their stories from a thought to a realization, you have to have some type of knowledge with people and know how to deal with people and help them through their processes. So that's enough about me. And I want to get to it. I want to introduce my guests. I want you guys to introduce yourselves, tell who you are, if you're in education, what part of education, how long you've been in education, and then we'll dive into the conversation. And we're going to start with Stephanie. Hey, girl. Hey.
Hello, everyone. It's a wonderful evening. My name is Stephanie Conley. I have been in education for 22 years. For the previous 21, I was in schools, and this year I have ventured out on my own with my own educational consulting business, called SL Conley Consulting. And so I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. We'll get back to you. I love that. I love that. And congratulations.
Thank you.
Robin, introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Robin Pates. teacher by profession, started teaching back in 2000 from California, moved here to Georgia in 2003, and quit the public school in 2013. I quit. Part of the reason why I worked here in Clayton County. I taught third, fourth, and fifth grade. And one of the reasons why I quit was because I had my own children. And I just felt the need to, teach my own. you know, I'm responsible for my own first.
Absolutely.
And so I started a homeschooling venture, the little micro schools. I started that back in 2013. Ooh. And both of my children ended up going to Ron Clark Academy. And so when they went to Ron Clark Academy, I then closed the center because I never really envisioned myself homeschooling groups of kids, but people kept asking me, can you homeschool my kid? Can you homeschool I had a storefront. I probably homeschooled 20 kids over 5 or 6 years. But once both of my kids got into Ron Clark, I just kept tutoring, but I closed down the homeschooling because I had to drive to Atlanta every day, take them to school. And so I still tutor to this day. I tutored two kids before I got on with you guys. I do it virtually. I keep saying I'm not going to do it anymore, but people keep calling because the need is there.
The need is there. The need is there.
The need is there. So I still educate, but now I do insurance. I started doing insurance maybe 15 years ago, and I educate seniors. I do Medicare. I do ACA. So I've been completely independent, working for myself. My daughter's at Spelman now. She's a sophomore, and my son is still in high school. He is a junior. So my goal is they're first. They're my first priority, and I felt like I couldn't work in the school system and still be able to focus on them.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you. We'll come back to that. Desiree, you're muted. You're on mute. You're on mute.
I'm still trying to get this together.
There you go.
Okay, I'm sorry. Hi, I'm Desiree Williams. I'm a chef by career and a child care nanny, I guess you could say. And I've been involved in the school system voluntarily for the last 20 years or so. I basically started when my son was in charter school, a charter preschool. And then as he advanced to kindergarten and first grade, I started volunteering. I've been in every school he's been in, plus other schools. And just became very important to me to make sure that, I see how the school system works, be very active, proactive, do anything I can to change things for myself as well as other parents. I've seen so many things in the school system that I felt like was just failing our kids. And I just wanted to make sure I could do all I can as a parent to, give my input and to encourage other parents as well. So that's about it.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much, Des. Jacqueline Cox.
Hello, everybody. I am Jacqueline Cox. I am an author, a journalist, a podcaster, a researcher, but most importantly, I am a parent. However, I was for a short period of time a teacher at a school here in Chicago called Mary Crane Center, and I taught kindergarten through second grade, and I did that for 2 years. And then after that, I just became more so of an advocate for my child while working for the DCFS system in case management in other places that they felt like they needed me at the time, like therapeutic foster care services and behavioral services. I have 2 children, one with ADHD, one with autism, and I am a huge advocate. And I've been on the DEI committee of my school district, my kids' school district now, 11 years. So I really focus more on diversity, equity, and inclusion because our community is so diverse and the children of color do not get the appropriate treatment that I feel that they should. So being a product of foster care, I know how that can be. not being treated fairly. And I've always said that my kids will never go through that. I've done homeschool as well this past year because of the treatment that my oldest son has been through with his last couple of schools. So I decided to take him out and put him in a Celis Learning Academy. And so I've done that. I did that for a year. And yeah, I'm like one of the biggest advocates for any type of mistreatment I see in the school, and the same in the workplace. When I was with DCFS and Lutheran Social Services, I was a part of the employee rights program at my
Okay,
job.
Jacqueline, let me pause you right there. Hold that thought. Let's get the other introductions out the way, and then we'll jump back into that. Okay.
Okay, cool.
Pause that. Pause it. Don't forget. Put your finger right there.
Oh, I ain't.
Right there. Don't forget. Let's go. Let's go, Tracy. So let's introduce ourselves. Tell us, Tracy, where you are if you're in education. Tell us what you know, where you are in education, how long you've been in education, and then I'm seeing some really interesting conversations coming out of this today. So, Tracy.
Hello. Excuse me. Drinking this tea with cayenne pepper in it.
Go ahead.
Tracy Adams. I am a teacher by trade. I came into teaching. It wasn't my initial career that I wanted to do. When I first enrolled in Morris Brown College in 1994, I wanted to be an engineer. But I just, got led into teaching after I graduated. And I've been in teaching for January will be 25 years. And I've taught some of everything and everywhere. My first teaching career was in Clayton. Then I went to Rockdale and I went to Newton. I spent a year teaching in Vegas and 1 year in Muskogee County. And now I am in the Phoenix City school system. I teach special needs K through 5, vast of exceptionalities of children that I work with. And I actually enjoy being in the trenches because I like working with kids.
I love
So
that.
that's why I've been here for so long. My business is TNA Literary Works, and it's basically a virtual book display where my books you can purchase my books and see different things that I offer as far as speaking and helping people to get started on their stories because I feel like I'm kind of sort of expert now. I'm also a writer for Unmasking Motivation magazine. I'm writing articles and collecting my articles to hopefully make a book one day. So I'm excited to be on this panel and hearing the different aspects of education coming from parents. I mean, of course, I've heard it from parents over the years, being in education 25 years. But I mean, like I said, I enjoy being in the trenches, and that's why I feel like as a teacher, you're in the trenches, you're on the front lines.
Yes.
With
Awesome.
children, with their parents, and everything like that. So
Okay.
that's my spiel.
Awesome. I know you guys wanted to get into it and tell it. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. Thank you, Tracy. And before I get to Robert Brooks, I think that's him. I want to say thank you guys for your service, for the volunteers, for the thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. I'm gonna get to why I said that, but thank you for your service. Mr. Brooks, is that you? Alcatel Joy Tab 2. Can you introduce yourself, please? You're on mute. Mr. Brooks, are you there? Okay, I don't know if he went to sleep. Okay, we'll go to you, Evelyn. Evelyn, please introduce yourself and tell us who you are, and if you're in education, tell us how long you've been in education. You're on mute.
There it is. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, let me step outside. Hold on one second. So I'm here, I'm a teacher, and I'm here at curriculum night. So hold on one second. All right, greetings, everyone. I
Hi.
am Evelyn Fitzgerald. I am a teacher, and I was bitten by the education bug. So I have been teaching 4 years now. I started out doing it for a friend. I subbed for a friend, and oh my gosh, I loved it. So I went ahead and started teaching, but I'm an agriculture teacher for agriculture. So, calm it down. So yes, I teach agriculture K through 5 elementary school, and I absolutely love what I do. Okay, so I teach them everything from the seed all the way to table. Okay. I also teach agribusiness because I want them to know this is a $1 trillion industry. There is no culture without agriculture. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm here teaching our babies. I'm at a charter school out here in Chattahoochee Hills. And so I teach K through 5. Prior to that, I was a entrepreneur. I had a home health care business for 15 years. So I traded in the seniors to the young folks. And that's what I've been doing for the past 4 years. I have written a book, an agriculture book, and I just finished a coloring activity book for children about gardening. So one book is already on Amazon, and I think the guide will be uploaded tomorrow, actually, on
Okay.
Amazon. Yeah. So
Awesome.
that's me. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for that. I appreciate that. So, listen, we are talking about education redefined from a different perspective. And so I want to talk about the what's going on. Mr. Brooks, are you there? Can you introduce yourself? Did you come back? Can you hear us now? Okay, you did not. So we want to, I want to talk about, first of all, let's talk about safety. With the recent events, the shooting that happened here in Georgia, how safe do you guys feel? You know, I know that Robin, I know that you're doing your children are still in school. So how safe are the children feeling? Even though Jacqueline, I know you're in Illinois, and Tracy, you're in Alabama. How safe, what do you guys think? How safe do your children feel? Did you guys sit down and have the conversation? Because even though you're educators, you're also parents.
That's
So
right.
tell me, what was that conversation like in your household? And then I want to know, was there a conversation in the classroom? Because there's been some threats here. So what's the conversation? Because you guys are on the inside. I'm on the outside. I don't have school age children anymore. So I get, the information from friends who are educators and from, the news media, which you can't always rely on. So I want to start, Robin. Let's start with you. In what was that conversation like? And you're here in Clayton County, so you were here in Georgia. What was that conversation like with your children?
So it's interesting you brought that question up today because my son ended up staying home today. He's currently goes to North Atlanta in APS. So I got a condo in Atlanta because he went to boarding school. He's always gone to boarding school after he left Ron Clark, and he didn't like the boarding school experience. So this is his first public school experience this year as a junior. And so we talked about the shooting. A message was sent out by APS yesterday to the parents late last night, stating that there have been some threats and that they were going to have, there's going to be certain safety measures. They don't have a clear book bag at his school, but they do have the metal detectors when they walk in. And so we talked about it. And today, when he got on the bus, because he's in Atlanta, he's like, Mom, he texted me. He's like, nobody's on the bus today. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, there's only like 5 kids on the bus and everyone's scared. That's what he said. He's like, everyone's scared. He did go to school and he ended up Ubering back home. That was our experience. So we talked about it. I try to go the faith way and God and not living in fear. And I don't know the full picture because he didn't stay at school for very long, but we did talk about this situation and he happens to have a doctor's appointment tomorrow. So he's not going to school tomorrow while the school can kind of figure it out. But I know for him, it's eye-opening for him because he's never been to public school. And then now this is his first experience, right? And so even if he's not scared, it's just the fact that when he did get to the school, he said people were crying. I don't know how serious the threats were. We just got a general message from the school that stated, because of threats, we're going to heighten the security.
Oh, wow.
And so, it's interesting. And we've talked about it, and we've talked about, doors being locked, and like when you see something, how would you handle the situation, and not running and hiding. And it's unfortunate that we've had to have those conversations.
Wow. And I'm going to ask you, Jacqueline, I know you're in Illinois, but you have two young boys in school, but I want to ask a question too. Jacqueline, I'm going to let you answer, but I want to ask the question, my tongue's tied. Do you guys feel like, because you said there was basically a blanket statement issued from the school. Do you guys feel like, and I saw some, I'm in the same group in the Clayton County moms and dads, and people were posting the letters. And it really wasn't a lot of information. It seemed like it was a duplicated letter and the school names were just changed. So do you guys feel like, and answer this after Jacqueline, but do you guys feel like there's enough communication from the school or not enough communication? So Jacqueline, what kind of conversations do you have with your boys? I know Jaden was homeschooled for a while and then, he's back in school, but he's in high school now, right?
Jaden is in 8th grade.
And he's in middle school, last year of middle school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So how is that conversation?
Is in 3rd grade. So Marvis is in 3rd grade. Jaden is in 8th grade. The conversations that we have, God bless me with a husband, a military husband. So, he's always, from birth until now, always made sure that he's equipped our family with strategies and exit strategies. And before, when we do the open house in the beginning of the school year, he walks around the whole school. He needs to see every exit, how they prepare, what's their plan, what's their strategies, anything dealing with like, students bringing firearms or open a firearm in the school, anything like that. So he probes the school, he probes with the security to make sure that everything is okay. But we still have those conversations at home where if something were to happen, do we still allow our kids to go? I know that here in Illinois, I can't speak for everybody, but your kids get 5 mental health days that are automatically excused absences for their mental health. So we make sure that we reserve them as much as we can. But if something were to come up like that, we're definitely taking a day because we are faith-based beyond, right? Like we are the ones that we oil our kids. We pray before we leave out. We pray in the car. They say their scriptures before they go to school. But I think that as parents, it is our duty to protect our kids and not just feel like, oh, I'm going to send them anyway because I just need a break. No, if something happens, ours are staying at home. I think the best way to safeguard our children is to make sure that they are protected. And I don't want to be in a situation where if something was to happen, I can't protect my kids. Now, mind you, Jaden is allowed to bring his phone to school. They do not confiscate the phones just in case if anything were to happen. But it still takes time for us we can't zoom past stoplights and stop signs. And it takes time for us to get from our house to the school. And I just want to make sure that they are never in that situation. But if they are in that situation, my husband has definitely went over every safety tactic with the school, with our kids. And we also make sure that they know to text us, to call us. If my third grader feels like he's in any type of danger, he knows he has a watch. Hit that watch button. Call mom, call dad on his watch. Those type of things that we invest in, because we don't want to be in a situation where we can't help our kids.
I like you said, I like that you said those are types of things that we invest in. I like that you said that. I like that you said that. So, Tracy, what about you? I know you are an educator and a parent. And so you have two girls and they're in different schools. And so how do you navigate that? And what's the conversation like in your household?
Well, after everything happened up there, I forgot the name of the school, but anyway, it was in Winder, I know. And my oldest daughter and I had a conversation on the way to school afterwards. And she didn't seem like she was scared, but just very concerned. And I told her, if you see anything funny, hear anything funny, smell anything funny, I said you go to a custodian room, lock yourself in there, go to a bathroom, go to the cafeteria. If you got a friend with you, drag them by their collar, save your friend, get somewhere where you're safe. And I said, you stay there until you hear from me. And her school, they're allowed with their phones as well. um I love what Miss Jackie said about her husband, just basically scoping the whole school. And I wish we all had that. My little one, Maya's in the fourth grade, and I've taught her the same thing. Get, just run and hide is all I can say.
Mhm.
Get somewhere where you can close the door and cover yourself,
Mhm.
until you hear from me. Don't move, don't make a sound until you hear from me. And I just think one of the things my oldest girl said, and I'm gonna be quiet so someone else can share. But one of the things my oldest girl said is, she said, Mama, it's a shame that we have to go through this. And this is her first year in high school. She said it's a shame that we have to go to school like this and be worried about someone coming into the school building, and shooting it up like that.
Wow.
Um, I know things happen everywhere and it can happen at any time, but you guys correct me if I'm wrong. We don't see a lot of it at schools where there's a lot of people that look like us. So
Mhm.
correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I haven't,
Mhm.
and not saying that I can let my guard down. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm safe, because it's not going to happen at a black school. It could happen anywhere. But
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
saying that, in my 25 years of being in education, I haven't seen it so escalated.
It's a lot. There are, thank you, Tracy. It's just evil. There's so much evil and hatred in the world. And to me, it doesn't have a color. It's just evil, it's just hatred, and it's sad. And you're right. Your baby's right, because when I was in school, which wasn't that long ago,
Mhm,
um,
mhm.
didn't have to go through, didn't I don't remember ever being afraid of somebody coming in and shooting up the school. Didn't remember that.
Never.
The most that we thought about was, what boy like you, and what, that's that's the most we thought about. We didn't think about any of that. But now the tides have changed, and we have to we that's it's not business as usual anymore. And you're right, you can never let your guard down. So thank you guys. Evelyn, I want to ask you, so you came from, you're teaching the younger ones now. Were there conversations, did you have in your class, and thank you so much for your energy. I love that energy. And you see that when you love what you do. When people love what they do, and thank you, Tracy, for being there, staying there in the trenches. When you love what you do, it shows, and it shows to the other people. Desiree and I do swimming, do pool in the morning, water exercise in the morning, and we were just talking about yesterday with Stephanie. Y'all, we go to the pool. So if anybody ever in Atlanta, y'all want to go to the pool, 55 minutes in the pool with me will change your life. Okay. I'm right. That's my little caveat. But we were talking about that's my 55 for 55 plug, y'all. Okay. But we were talking about how when you love what you do, you see a difference. The outcome is different. Even when the students are kind of hard to manage, if you love what you do and you understand that they are students and they are children and they're coming from different places, you love what you do, you can make a difference in the lives. So Evelyn, what was the conversation like in your classroom with your students, especially since seeing as you have the younger ones?
Yes. So I'm a mother too, so I have a son that's a senior in high school. Now, we are in Douglas County. So we also in Douglas County had the same, they will report that somebody was going to do the same thing at Douglas County School. So my son already told me prior he doesn't feel safe at his school because kids from Westlake come to his school for lunch, you know. So that lets me
Right, most.
know, yeah, and that lets me know though that, hello, did
Uh-huh,
I
we can
lose
hear
you?
you.
Oh,
No,
okay.
we can hear you.
That lets me know as a parent that those doors are not locked. The teachers are not watching. Um, the cafeteria workers, I mean, I'm a teacher too. We have duties where we share cafeteria time, and no one sees that these kids do not go to this school. I have a problem with that as a parent
Mm-hmm.
and as a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we can't let people in and out of the school where I teach? We have three armed security, and it's private. The school hired them. Our board did. So we have armed three people. They constantly walk our campus. So here where I work, I do feel safe. I can honestly say that. I am also a gun owner. I am licensed. I shoot. I'll go to the range. So my son knows safety measures. He knows about guns because my husband and we are gun owners. Um, Jeffrey knows if something happens and it's a time at that school where you feel threatened or you feel scared, let somebody know at that school, you got to go. You
Mm-hmm.
call me and Jeff, you let us know, and you get in your car and you head home. If not, you get somewhere safe. Don't move till you know it's a safe. You either see officers or you see me or your daddy walk through that door. So our son knows to stay safe, um, but it's not a guarantee. I'm sure those families told their babies, love you, see
See
you,
you
be
later.
safe. That's what
Mm-hmm.
we do. That's what we tell them. And those parents thought that those two babies were going to come back home.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know. I do plead the blood of Jesus over my entire family every single day. And I have to live on faith that I pray and I know that our God is going to take care of New Manchester High School, cover the whole school, watch over the parents, the students, the teachers, all of that. And my husband and we don't stress about it. It's
Mm-hmm.
nothing none of us can do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unless
You
we wipe out all these AKs and all of this unnecessary, why is it that we need those type of, why do we need that type of weapons?
Right, right.
You're not going to war.
Right. It's amazing. It's especially those who have young men, you teach,
Mhm.
especially black boys, you teach them
Black
what to do when you get, when you get stopped by the police. And so now
man, 20.
we're training our children how to stay safe doing active shooter. So they're doing active shooter drills. So thank you so much, Evelyn. I want to ask you, Desiree, and I'm going to get to you, Stephanie, because I have a whole spool of stuff. Stephanie is a principal, and I want to get to you about some other things. But Desiree, you were military, and so
Yes.
your son is now military.
Hmm.
So when you hear, when you see things like an active shooter in a school, and we don't know until after the fact that it's a child, and it's usually just like that. It's usually children. So from a military standpoint, and you have your son who is new to the military, what's your stance on it? How do you feel about that? So especially having volunteered in the school system for 20 years. What do you think? What's your stance on it?
It's it's really scary. I mean, I'm sure it is for everybody, but I think about that all the time because actually twice in two different schools during my 20 years as a parent volunteer, we've had incidents. Matter of fact, another one just occurred. It was a bomb the day after this current school shooting in where was it? Winder County?
Mm.
Winder. My niece, she's 7, and her 8, 7 or 8, but anyway, someone reported a bomb threat at her school, and this was the very next day. So of course we were all like, what in the world? And then we had an active shooter in the area of my son's school. He went to a private school in Noonan, and they had an active shooter where they had to lock down everything. I just happened to be doing childcare at the school, after school care. And all I had was someone just come in my room and say, hey, I'm going to have to lock you in here. And we had already had a meeting about, what that means when they say we're going to lock you in here. So I just nodded my head. The kids wasn't aware of anything. We didn't want them to panic. He just locked me in, and they called me on the phone to explain a little bit about what was going on. And it was just some random guy had robbed a bank down the street, and he was running through the woods of the, nearby businesses, including the school. So they had to lock down. And then we had another incident a couple years back from something else. But, this thing is just too much. I mean, it's been going on for so long. It's like, I don't know. I feel, we feel safe sometimes, but just depending on the circumstances, it's like, are we letting our guard down when we shouldn't? I mean, you don't want to panic, but my son, he's actually a weapons specialist in the military. That's his job. So sometimes, I'll call him, and then, he won't answer. And then he'll call me a couple days later. I'm like, sorry, I was at work, whatever. But I know his job, entails keeping watch of an entire ship of about 5,000 people, and if he's not on his job doing what he's supposed to do, somebody can, easily infiltrate. And, he's literally protecting a boat, a ship of about 5,000 people, like a small city, so he has to be on his P's and Q's. And that makes me scared because, he's like directly in charge of stuff like that. And I don't know, I get so nervous. I know what he signed up for, but, you still can't help but to feel, scared sometimes,
Wow.
But, yeah,
Wow.
it is crazy because, I mean, school is just not the same anymore. I mean, we went from carrying clear backpacks. Now we're walking through security systems like we're at the airport, and it's just gotten more and more and more from there. I mean, a bomb threat back in the day, a lot of times was, set up on purpose like a fire drill just to prepare us to know what to do if we get one. But now pretty much anything that comes through, we have to assume it's real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's crazy.
Wow. Wow. And you know what? You said something that I want to segue to Stephanie. You said, it's his job, it's your son's job to watch. So are we doing enough? In the education system, are we doing enough? So Stephanie, I'm going to go to you. You were, excuse me, a teacher first for several years, and then you transitioned to principal. So you kind of deal more with policies and all those things. So do you think the system is broken?
So I won't say that the system is broken, but there's definite areas of improvement that we can have within the system. I think one of the things that is very important, and we just don't have enough of them in our schools, are behavior specialists as well as counselors that can focus in on the mental health and well-being of our children. Um, One of the things that was stated over and over again was that this child was bullied, that the school did nothing about it, and that this was how the child retaliated. And so we have to not only focus on the children that are getting bullied, but we also have to focus on the bully and understand why they are doing that. So one of the areas that we can have a major improvement is really focusing in on those areas in which we can identify and pinpoint some of the mental health stressors that our students are going through. And that's one of the areas in which we are lacking big time. There are a lot of things that we can put in place, but we can never get into the mindset of what children are thinking when they commit serious acts such as this. We never know what their steps are. You know, one of the things they said for this young man is that he had his weapon in his bag. You know, we have seen situations in which they stashed it and they open up the side door and go out and get it. So you never know like what actually is going to take place in order to ensure that it never happens again. We can try to put things in place to prevent it, but we unfortunately, the times that we are in, and we saw this, especially as we came back from the pandemic, that our children were in such high need of supports, that our school systems weren't equipped
Providing.
to handle that. And they didn't have people in place in order to handle it. And when we're talking about children being on wait lists outside of that, we have children that are on wait lists to see therapists because there are not enough trained therapists in order to handle the situation. So there are a lot of areas in which we need to see some improvement or provide some additional supports in order to support our babies.
I like that you said that, because I remember when I worked in the school system, I worked with the Program for Exceptional Children. And this was many years before the pandemic. I worked in a school in Buckhead. So the resources were different, even though it was APS. The resources were different because the parents had the money, and if they wanted something done, they paid for it. They had the resources in place. They had the speech teachers, and they identified them quickly. And they had, you know, if they needed therapy, my son was special needs, but because of medical. And they had it set up where at first they was like, okay, well, you have to take him out of class and give him his treatment. And they were like, no, you're a teacher. He's a student. He needs to be treated as if you were not here. But because I needed to make sure that he got his medication, I had to really come out of a box. And like, okay, listen, he needs to have his medicine. It doesn't matter to me that you don't feel comfortable. Well, he has to have what he needs. And it isn't, as a parent, it isn't my fault that you don't have the resources here. You got to make do, because it's a requirement. It's what he needs for his life. And so that was a fight at that point, and we got it straight. We got it real straight, but it was a fight. And you have then where there was a small group as compared to now, especially since the pandemic. Everybody is looking for an IEP, and I want to have Tracy to speak on that, because you know, Tracy and I had a conversation where there are parents who some of the kids don't need an IEP. And let's just be honest, some of the kids need a BELT. You know what I'm saying? And hey, I'm not advocating beating the kids, but you know, the Bible says, spare not the rod and spoil the child. So it's, you know, discipline. They need discipline. And so Tracy, speak to that. You know, what's going on there with the disconnect. And it is a huge emphasis on mental health, to the point where they've even put resources in place when a police officer gets a call and it's a mental health situation. They have started, at least here in Georgia, they've started to put those resources in place. So how they better handle it, because our people who have the mental illnesses are ended up dead in the street at the hands of the police, because they don't know that this person is having a mental issue. But then there are those who are not, and they're actually, kind of trying to push the system. So Tracy, speak to that and answer this question. Have you seen more of that since the pandemic or prior to?
Seen more of parents wanting.
Yes.
Oh, well, I can say that I've seen that more since I've been in Alabama. I've never seen the likes of parents. I talked to one yesterday, and they'll just call in, "Hey, I want my child to have an IEP." And I'm like, who are they talking to? Where they're getting their information from, where they feel like, they could just call the school, call the special ed teacher and say, "Hey, I want my child to have an IEP," without going through any of the evaluations, without trying to see if the child has received direct instruction in the classroom. You automatically want an IEP. And then you get to their senior year and you realize that your child is going to get a special ed diploma,
not a real
and not a regular diploma like everybody else. And now we want to pitch a fit. Oh, they didn't tell me. Oh, I didn't know. No, you were, I'm sorry, hell bent on your child having an IEP instead of doing what needs to be done to help the child at home. My child, this is what one of the parents said, my child is just struggling. She's having a hard time. So you want to slap an IEP on her that's going to go with her for the rest of her academic career? I mean, like today, my teacher, Mighty's team, we call her Mighty Mouse. Maya's teacher, she did not do well on her social studies quiz. And she said, well, I'm going to allow her to retake it. So that's like me as a parent. Well, my child need an IEP because she didn't pass a social studies test.
Mm-hmm.
I know it sounds ridiculous, but this is what I hear on the regular. And my special ed caseload is at right now it's at 37. I'm serving 37 students.
Wow.
And my segments are 30 minutes. So you're rounding up your group of kids and you're trying to get them settled. By the time you do that, you barely have 15 minutes to provide the academic services that they need. And you study got parents coming in, I want an IEP, I want an IEP. And I want to tell them I can't, because of the politics. I want to tell them so bad, sure, you can have an IEP, but just know that your child is only going to get about 15 to 20 minutes of academic services because I got 38 children on my caseload. And that's the low number. Last year, I had 47. And the cap that special ed teachers are supposed to have on their caseload is 20. So I'm at double. So I don't, and they want to talk about compliance and, we need to be in compliance and make sure everybody has an IEP and that the eligibility is current and everything like that. We want to be in compliance. And I go to work comfortable every day because they were first out of line when they put almost 50 kids on my caseload. So they can't come to me and say anything. Well, Adams, you're out of compliance. No, you're out of compliance because I'm nearly 30 children over what the state of Alabama says I'm supposed to have. So let's fix that. And then we can come together and fix the other things that you say that I'm out of compliance on.
And so here we have it's a double-edged sword because you're over the limit that you can sufficiently serve a child, and so they're not getting the service that they need, and you're overworked. And so and from that standpoint, Stephanie, it's like, okay, is the system broken? Well, there are a lot of things that need to be done. And so I want to go to Jacqueline because I know I remember a couple of years back, Jacqueline, you were you were going through the whole gamut of the IEP stuff, and it wasn't anything pretty, and you were a parent who fought. And so you have the parents, Tracy, who are, hey, my kid need an IEP, because they definitely talking to somebody, because somebody has said, well, just call them and tell them you need an IEP. Like it's just
Exactly,
that
exactly
simple.
right.
And
And
then,
then, and I'm gonna say this, and Jackie, you could go ahead. I'm gonna say this. I have 3 students on my caseload who do not have any academic goal. They have behavior and social emotional goals. I'm sorry, but I am not trained nor certified in behavior specialist or social or emotional.
wow, right back to
You
what you
know,
said, Stephanie.
brilliant kids, brilliant. One of them, I told him today, boy, you could be a history teacher. He, letter for letter, detailed, told us all about Pearl Harbor, Hiroshima, the Arizona ship being attacked. He told us from timeline to timeline, but because he had behavior, if he doesn't get what he wants, he'll go off, run out of the classroom, and slam the door. And I'm supposed to service that.
So, right quick, Jacqueline, we'll get you right quick. And Stephanie, if you can, for those who don't know what an IEP is, can you go ahead and Kevin just asked that. Evelyn, if you could mute yourself, please. I know you're driving. If you can quickly tell us what is an IEP for those who don't know.
So an IEP is an individualized education plan for students, and it can either be academic or behavioral in nature. And so what it does is it outlines goals for students that we're supposed to work and help them to reach by providing accommodations for them in order to help them reach it.
Awesome, awesome. I remember that I used to work in the program for exceptional children, and there were specific guidelines, and the schools, they came out, and every year there were checks, and you had to make sure that those checks and balances lined up. You had to make sure if Johnny was in the room, you had to make sure that Johnny had everything that was required by his IEP. If Laquita was there, Laquita's IEP looked different. So you had to make sure that Laquita's IEP, and Laquita could be behavior, Johnny could be educational, and everybody's in the program for exceptional children, and everybody got something else. And if they got 5 minutes of butterfly time, then they needed to have 5 minutes of butterfly time. And if it said your max is 6 in this classroom, you could not have 7. Could not have 7. That's when I was in the school system back some 20 years ago.
So I just want to say real quick, if it's done right, you can ultimately see several instructors in a classroom in order to help support children. What we know right now is that we are severely lacking teachers. We're severely lacking teachers in specialized areas such as special education and career, technical, and agricultural areas. And so if we were ideally able to fill all the positions, we would see people like Tracy have her 20 or less, and we would see our students receiving more services than their 15, 20, 30 minutes that they that is only possible right now.
And you can see the difference being truly made. So Jacqueline, you have 2 sons, and you've gone through the and I'm going to say, and you correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm safe in saying, the nightmare of it all.
Absolutely. With Jaden, he did not have a IEP. They wanted to give him an IEP. But as a first-time parent with Jaden, I was very, very taken back. Jaden in kindergarten was misappropriately touched by a Caucasian boy in his class. And when they found out at the school, he was in kindergarten at the time, in the bathroom with a second grader. And when they found out at the time, that's just what little boys do, and tried to sweep it under the rug. And then Jaden started to have behavioral issues after that. And they said, oh, we think he needs an IEP. No, he doesn't need an IEP. So I went to bat about that. But after a while, I did start seeing some behavioral issues at home. And I took him to therapy, and I spoke with my husband about it, and we came up with the 504 plan action, and put him in therapy, and we went that route.
So
Now,
explain what's a 504 plan for those who
so
don't
the
know.
504 plan is basically Jaden is diagnosed with ADHD, and he was dyslexic in the beginning. And I was one of those parents, those young parents that ain't nothing wrong with my baby. Y'all got it wrong. I was very in denial about him and receiving care because, growing up in our culture, we shun upon things like therapy. And the first time somebody say anything, our kids need anything, is, oh, my baby ain't crazy.
Mhm.
Because that's what we were allowed to think. Oh, you just not teaching them right, or maybe it's something I could do at home. But then when I started to see certain signs and I started working with foster parents with the therapeutic behavior program, and just started to do my research on it and go to school for it, and I started to really realize that and start taking some of those things that I learned at work and implementing at home with my child. And then I noticed some things and said, okay, yeah. So we moved and we did the 504 plan, and it's kind of parallel to the IEP, but it's not as drastic. But it still forced my child to have accommodations where if he may need a 5 or 10 minute break, he getting antsy, he can't pay attention, those type of things, then they have systems in place that gives him those accommodations that will help him to be able to do better academically. And he has excelled. He's been an honors student since first grade. Dyslexic program out the window. He's a best-selling author. So that should tell you that, he is excelling exceptionally well in that area. Now, as far as my youngest, he's 8 years old. His name is Marvis. He does have an IEP. I went into it more optimistic because once he was, we took him through private therapy, and we actually paid for the neuropsychopath, psycho, whatever it's called, the test that, for lack of better words, you got to excuse me, I need more food in my life tonight. But the neural testing that they do, and it's a 12-week test that they do every Saturday, where we take our child for 4 hours a day and have him actually do cognitive, do social emotional, do all those different tests to see exactly where he is as far as his learning capability, his behavioral. And although he is high on the spectrum, genius academically, his IQ was through the roof academically, but he does have that issue, that it takes, his brain works different, how he um, analyzes things, and um, how he learns things is a lot different from an average person. And so for that reason, he has the IEP, and it was a struggle to get him that IEP. With the school district, even though the school that he goes to is a public school, um, they did not want to provide him with the services, but the services are in the district and they are in the class. And that's where me and you, Laquita, we spoke pretty much a lot, because they thought they had them one. That's all I'm gonna say. But they did not know that I was a part of the DEI committee. Um, they knew me as Jacqueline Cox, but my maiden name was first used when I joined the DEI committee, and I never changed that name over. So they did not know that Jacqueline Smith was actually Jacqueline Cox. And so when they learned about it, that's when I started to see a better treatment towards me, towards my kids, but, as far as having that struggle with the school district, it was very hard. Not necessarily with the teachers in the school or the principal, because they were great, but having that fight with the school district to provide those services to my child, it should not have happened. But that is more so on the level of racial discrimination that we have in our community here. where we live. So that was the difference. But I absolutely love my son's IEP program. It helps him a lot. He actually has a one-on-one person that sits with him throughout the day. He has his counselor who sits down the hall, where if he's having an issue, he could go talk. He has a plan put in place where they give specific goals. They meet with us 4 times a year and every semester to make sure that he's reaching those goals. They do the best that they can to keep me informed. We are one team. And I will tell the parents right now, even if you don't feel like you don't like the teachers, or you still, for the sake of your child, do the best you can do to at least be cordial with the team. Because if you are not working on the team with the team, and you do not have a camaraderie with your kids' teachers, with the principal, with the counselors, with the spec teachers, the SP Ed teachers, or those type of things, your child will not thrive, because they will go at the end. They be like, oh, I ain't got time to be dealing with this person's parent or this and that. They do those things behind closed doors. So we have to make sure that we are not necessarily kissing nobody's tail, because we're not going to do that, but we cannot be problematic either. I started off as a problematic parent, and now I am a team playing parent, because I know and I see that is effective, and it works for the betterment of my child.
You know what? I appreciate that you said that. It is Desiree, why is it illegal for teachers to advise parents that their child may need mental help? And that's a good question. But Jacqueline, thank you for that, because you bring up a valid point that I want to transition to. And Desiree, we're going to ask that question, but I want to transition to Robin, because Robin, you started out in the school system as a teacher, and then you went and started doing your homeschooling your children, and then working with other students, and then now tutoring. How was it different? Was it a different experience when it was homeschool versus working in the school system? What was that experience like? And what was the success rate of the students? Were they more apt to learn and to listen? And how did that work out for you?
What I will say is kids are the same. You know, if it's public, if it's private, if it's homeschool, kids are the same. What was different is the control that I had when I was homeschooling. You know, I had to jack some little boys up. You know, they came to me thinking that they could do what they did in public school. And their parents gave me the permission. It was like the one-room schoolhouse back in the days when, you know, you have 10, 15 kids. I'm meeting each one at their level and telling them we're not going to be playing any of these games. And now, you know, looking back 5 years, I have one student, he just got accepted to Morehouse. He just started. You know, my daughter's at Spelman. Like all of the kids that I homeschooled, they're doing exceptionally well. But they came to me, their stories were very similar to the parents that we hear tonight. Like public school is just not working. My child needs an IEP. They're getting bullied. They're getting picked on. And so they looked to me in terms of finding a different option for their children. But the kids are the same. And I think it's the expectation. It's like what you expect of them. And when you raise the bar and the standard for them, then they're able to excel in that environment, right? I'm not playing with you, but I think sometimes in public school, when you have a caseload, like Tracy said, of all these students, the teacher feels hopeless. It's too much. And so, and also I don't have the bureaucracy and you got to be teaching this standard or you got to do this. Like I'm meeting kids where they're at, you know, and that makes a very, very big difference because it builds the kids' confidence when you're meeting them where they're at. The kids that I tutor now, I'm meeting the boy I met with today is in 5th grade and he's reading on a kindergarten level, you know, but I'm meeting him one-on-one. And one thing I'm working with him on is building his confidence, right? But what does that look like when he's in the classroom, right? And of course, kids are going to snicker. I mean, I can't believe the boy.
I was going to say, it looks like behavior. It looks like
right.
Behavior because I don't want people to know that I can't read.
And
I'm going to cause an issue. I'm going to cause a disturbance. I'm going to distract everybody because I don't want people to know that I cannot read.
Yes.
So it looks different. It
It
looks
does look
different.
different. And I mean, he does have a learning, disorder that
Mhm.
it's taken him so long to get there, but he's still got to learn how to read. Somebody got to
Yeah.
put the time in and invest in him, right? But at the end of the day, kids, I have seen from, homeschooling to teaching in the public school to my kids going to Ron Clark to going to boarding school, which is a whole nother experience because these kids, their parents are paying $60,000 a year. Kids are still going to be kids at the end of the day.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So Desiree, you were in the why was it important for you to make sure that you were there in your child's school from the beginning, from from pre-K all the way up to graduation? Why was that important for you? And how did you find the time? So that's the thing, because that's what we hear a lot of the parents. Well, I have to work. I don't have time. Those were excuses. I was lucky enough in the beginning to work in the school system. So my children went to the school that I worked at. So they were there their whole elementary school years, and then they didn't go to a different school until I quit the school system, and then they started going to regular school. Well, it was still regular school, but they started going to their various neighborhood schools, and it was a different situation. So why was that important to you, that you be there and they know, okay, that's Kyle's mama?
Well, first of all, the time factor came from as far as me and having a lot of time to be in the school system as much as I was. I had got diagnosed with a sleeping disorder. And so I couldn't do a lot of the work that it takes to be a chef, clock in and possibly never clock out, being at my job for 16, 17 hours at a time. It just became impossible. So I had to take something more low key that was going to require me to be able to do my job, but take breaks when I needed to. So my son at a young age, he would come home and he would tell me stories and, just things I would notice, like when I was just there anyway on my off days. I would see a lot of things go on, like kids would come in there and they would just do wild and crazy things, and they wouldn't even be
Disciplined.
what's the word I'm looking for? Disciplined. And so also my son had went to he was fortunate enough to have a daycare teacher that taught him all the things he needed for kindergarten. So when the year came for him to go to kindergarten, like so many other children, they were so advanced, they skipped them from kindergarten to first grade because they considered a waste of time for them to take up those kindergarten seats for other kids when they could have just went on to first grade. Well, they passed over my child and kept him in kindergarten. And so there was a big argument about that because I was like, clearly my son was acing all the tests, showing them on paper that he really could be going from kindergarten to first grade. So I ended up just leaving it alone. I let him stay in kindergarten. I said, Lord, there must be a reason why they want to keep him here. But he was getting bored, you know what I mean, with a lot of the stuff that was going on, like so many of the other kids. But kids would start acting out, doing stuff, and I noticed that they weren't really doing anything about it. The kids that were being very disruptive in the classroom, kids would pick up chairs and throw them. And one girl got badly injured because a kid picked up and threw a chair and hit her in the head. And they would just take those kids and just put them in other classrooms for the day. Well, you need a break from here. We're going to send you to Miss So-and-so's classroom. And I was like, how was that going to help the kid? Because they're just going to another classroom to disrupt that class. You know what I mean? So as I got involved in that, I started spending more and more time, less work and more. I had the convenience, the ability to spend less time at work and more time at the school, because at this time I was getting really invested. Like, what can I do, to help this situation out, So I started trying to recruit other parents, and then the teachers saw how active I was, and they started using me to do a whole thing. Miss Williams, will you do this? Will you do that? And before you knew it, I had a full schedule, like I was a regular teacher. You know what I mean? So, and I enjoyed it. I really did enjoy it. So I didn't mind, you know what I mean? But that was kindergarten, and I followed him all the way up until he graduated, and I got him so involved in so many things. I started based on my college credentials, I started teaching Spanish to some of the kids. Anytime there was a teacher out, they would just throw me in as a sub and, different things like that. But I really, really enjoyed my time in the school system with the kids. But it just made me so sad when, unfair things would happen to kids. And, the teachers was like, they just so tired. They was like, well, we don't want to be bothered. We don't really care. And, just let it be, whatever it is. And that really upset me because I was like, if you guys are not gonna care, then who's gonna care? You know what I mean?
Here's who's gonna care. If the teachers
Frustrating,
don't
very,
care.
very frustrating to see that. And one of the things, like the question I brought up about the discipline and the advising the parents that the child may need some type of help, is because after I was seeing all these violent acts and things like that, I was asking the teacher, I said, why can't you talk to Mr. and Miss So-and-so and let them know that, their child possibly could need some mental help? You're just making a suggestion. You're not telling them, what to do, whatever. And she was like, they were like, no, we can't do that. It's illegal and this and that. And I was like, well, why? Can you explain that to me? And I never really got a full explanation as to the legality of why, a teacher can't suggest to a parent that something's wrong. Because my thing is, communication is everything. If you see that your child is acting up, not just once, but a whole bunch of times, clearly there's something wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Stephanie, can you answer that question?
Yeah. So one of the things that we have to be careful in education is how we word things to parents, because they can take it to say, they said my child needs this, and so now the school is obligated to pay for it. So oftentimes administrators would tell teachers not to say things to parents because of the wording that needed to be done. Not to say that the parent can't hear that there is a possibility that they would need, certain services, but we usually wanted that to come either from an administrator or from like a counselor or somebody who is certified in that area to talk from that perspective and from that point of view. So it's not that we can't tell them, the schools can't tell them. It's just that how the protocol and the process and the road to telling them is going to look a little bit different to ensure that we are in compliance with the policies that are in place.
It's kind of like my doctor can observe something, but she can't diagnose it. So she has to send me to my rheumatologist for my rheumatologist to tell me that what my primary care already suspected, but she couldn't say it. So they had to do it because she is not her area of expertise. So, and right. I remember being working in the program for exceptional children, and seeing the parents, when you're right, you have to be very careful because words matter. And the parents saying something and being very specific, because a lot of things is tied to money. So they're listening for those key words, and then it's like, okay, so my child needs this, so the school is obligated to pay for that. And then before you know it, you look and you see, little Johnny has, somebody coming to twist their hair every day. I'm being extreme, but that's not far from it. So I want to ask, and you know what, guys, it's the time just goes by so fast. I want to ask everybody this question. So we're talking about education redefined. So how do we redefine it? We redefine it in, everybody has their own way or their own thought process of what should be, how things should be handled. Robin, I love that you said a child in school is the same as a child being homeschooled. Children are children, they're still the same. So from a different perspective, if there is something in education that you would change, this question is for everybody. So I'm going to give everybody about 2 minutes to answer this question. If there was anything in the school system, in the scope of education that you would change, what would it be? What would that thing be? Something that would be beneficial? Because sometimes we go through and we think, what would be beneficial for my child? And our child is, you know, a senior in high school and they're on their way out. And sometimes it's like, okay, my child's not there anymore, so they gone, I don't care. But we still have things happening in our communication, in our community, that's directly affecting education. So if there is something that you could change that would make it better for the masses, what would that one thing be that can be implemented now? And we know money is an option, but if this were an ideal situation, in an ideal world, money was of no object, what would that one thing be? And I think I'm going to start with Robin. Robin, what would that thing be? What would you change if you could change anything?
Well, you started saying money because that was what I first went, my mind went to money, right? Justin, I tell my son this all the time. He was in kindergarten the year I quit teaching. I was making $60,000 a year the year I quit, and that was in 2013. So I tell him, for every year I didn't work, just think about how much money I could have made, right? And then he ended up going to Ron Clark. He did get a scholarship, but I still paid. And then he went to boarding school, and in boarding school, $60,000 a year. But I probably paid 4 to 5 for my daughter and my son to both go to boarding school. So money means a lot, right? In terms of access. Now I'm renting a condo up north just so my son can get a good education.
Mhm.
And so I think that if we put, I've paid taxes for my house for 20 years, but my kids don't go to school here, right? So if the money could follow them, I think kids were more options. It would give parents more options. I'm from California. Homeschool parents in California get paid to homeschool their kids,
Mhm.
right? But here in Georgia, that's not such a thing. And so I think that if we put the money with it, I think it gives parents more access, more options, so that they can do what's best for their kids. And having, you know, like Desiree said, like I can't really work and be pouring into my own children on top of it, right? So I think that's the starting point to start seeing some difference, because we're funding these public schools left and right, and we know that a lot of them are not doing the job.
Right.
But they keep giving them that, you know, that daily money for showing up, even though our kids are not learning. And so I think that's a starting point.
Based on the head count.
Yep.
Jacqueline, let me go to you. What would you change? What would that one thing be?
You know what? I totally agree with what Robin said. Definitely make sure that the money that goes into the pot and what is supposed to be, um, what's supposed to be given is given to the exact things that's in the plan. That's one thing. So a strict eye on the budget, but also um, you know, that stigma of the teachers, I'm gonna get paid anyway. I'm 35 years old, and I've had teachers tell me that from kindergarten all the way up until I graduated college. It doesn't matter if one kid show up or 20 kids show up. So I think it's just more so of the teacher's attitude towards their job and towards the parents. A lot of times, and me being a former teacher as well, I feel like I could speak on this. A lot of times the teachers are there, and they enter schools that are in an urban community just so they can get their tuition paid off for free or whatever it is, or get it waived, and then they go teach at different schools, and then they leave our kids behind. So I feel like if the teachers would not take offense like to a parent like me, who's very active, very engaged, and want to work with you and want to be transparent with you. Don't be insulted if I email you and ask you a question about the agenda, or the for lack of better terms, the curriculum, or you know, how is this supposed to go? What's going to happen if this? Why my kid is not getting this accommodation? And you automatically take offense, and then you get on defense, and then you bite at me, and then that makes me feel like I can't ask a question about my own child's education, because
Now
at the
that
end
child,
of
now
it,
your child's a target.
now my child is absolutely a target, and you don't want to have anything to do with me as a parent. but then they say, oh, well, the parents don't want to be active. Well, for the parents who are very active, who are very concerned, and who is trying to work with you on a constant basis, just just if you want to teach because you want to teach. Don't teach for the paycheck.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave it at that. Even though the paycheck ain't that great, I know it's not, and the benefits are not that great. And if that is the case, then you go and you do what you're passionate about, because whatever it is that you're passionate about, and whatever gift that God has given you to do, He's gonna bless it 100-fold. And maybe teaching is not for you, but kids should not go into a school and be on a battlefield, because when we drop our kids off, they're walking through 100 spirits through that school, and they are there alone, and we are not there to protect them. And you guys are with our kids more than we are, over 40 hours a week. When we get them, they still have to come home. They have to do your homework. Okay, then they have to have dinner with us, maybe 30 minutes, and then they're back in bed. So for 5 days, 8 hours a day, they are with you guys, and we expect you to treat them like you treat your own. And I'm
Hmm.
gonna leave it at that.
Right. God, okay, I like that. So
Because you are raising our kids. You are, whether you want it to be or not, you are babysitters. You are in charge of our kids' lives and our kids' futures. And if you are not going to take accountability for that, and if you are not going to take it serious, it's not the job for you. Give it to people like Desiree or Robin or Tracy. Give it to those type of people who actually love what they do, who actually love helping kids and watching them grow. And like Melanie Johnson, who's not here, like Queenie Clem, who's not here. These are actually teachers who love what they do. They are passionate about what they do. Like Miss Stephanie Conley, who knows every single thing you want to know. She know it tonight. So these are people who actually care about the kids. But for the teachers who don't, it's not the job for you. I don't feel safe with my kids with you. I will take my kids out in a second. And Miss Laquita Parks, no, I don't care about stability when it comes to my kids. I care about safety, and I care about who cares about mine. And if you can't do it, I will bring them home and do it myself.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Desiree, thank you, Jacqueline. Desiree, what one thing would you change? You're muted.
Yeah, that's hard because I heard the whole thing about the money, of course. So I'm not going to repeat that because I totally agree with everything everybody said. But another aspect would be the parents being involved. You know what I mean? I did not, and I still do not see enough parents being involved. And then when they are involved, it's only because something has gone wrong. You know what I mean? We need to be there when things are going great. We need to support these teachers more. We need to support these kids more, these principals. Let them know that, hey, I know your job is hard. I have one at home. You got 25 of them in your classroom that are acting all the same way. So I feel like if these teachers were supported more, whether it's financial or emotional, that would make them feel better as well, because they're humans too. You know what I mean? But like Jacqueline was saying, you can't do this for a paycheck and just expect that to be, enough. You can't, that's just not a job. It's like, you don't expect your doctor to be, because maybe he got his paycheck cut. You don't expect your health, him to care less about, how you are. And that's how a lot of people die in the healthcare system, because the people are not getting paid what they want. And they're like, well, you know what? We'll just give them an aspirin and send them on their way. It's kind of like what we're doing, the same thing in these schools. And, voting is important, because we're not asking a lot of these politicians, the current situation that's going on now. And I'm not going to get into that, but just based on the current situation now of who they want in that presidential seat, I've heard nothing but money. Money, 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 money is going to depend on who I'm going to vote for. But what about humanity? What about caring? What about respect? You know what I'm saying? I've heard none of that mentioned. All I'm hearing about is just things that relate to money. And so, unfortunately, avarice, which is the root of all evil, that's the love of money, that determines everything in this world. If you think about any problem, you can always trace it back to something financial. You know what I mean? Right. And that's a huge problem. That's a huge problem. You got to show these kids that you care. no matter what, you got to show them that you care. Some of these kids that I've actually been with in the classrooms, especially some of the troubled ones who get in trouble every single day, I pull them to the side and say, hey, look, what's going on with you? What do you need? Why are you acting like this? What's going on? And once they see that somebody actually cares and just has a one-on-one conversation with them, I've seen kids do a total 180 because all they wanted to do is know that somebody cared about them. You know what I mean? And then, kids are looking at them or parents are looking at them like, well, what happened? Why did little Johnny stop? He doesn't really act on that. He just wanted somebody to talk to. You know what I mean? But a lot of people won't even take that time. Then they may not be getting it at home. They're not getting it in school. So where are they going to get it at? Then you wonder why they joined a gang. Because no matter what you join, whether it's a cult, a gang, a church group, whatever, the whole thing they have in common is friendship and acceptance. You know what I mean? So a lot of these kids could probably steer it in the right direction if people showed that they cared more, and just make the time. These jobs, they need to take more empathy on these parents who have children and say, hey, I know, y'all, you've been working really hard, whatever. I'll let you have an hour off if you need to run up to your child's school. How they have, just different things, permissions, the reason why you need to leave your job. Right. A lot of parents are so scared they're going to lose their job, They put their kids on the back burner, and it's like, it's not until something goes wrong that the parent is involved, So
I'm sorry. I love that because you're right. Teachers need support. They need support. The money, Robin is correct. Jacqueline, I agree with that. Desiree, I agree with you, with what you're saying. They need support. And I was fortunate enough to work for the Kroger company where my supervisors were very big on education. They were very big on education. They wanted you. My supervisor, Lori Smith, was my supervisor for 15 years. And she was very purposeful on that. She wanted you, your child has an activity at school, go. Go to your child's activity. Go here. They were very, very, very supportive in that. And I was lucky. And at the same time, I believe in teaching people how to treat me. So I don't believe in asking for permission. I believe in telling you I need to go I'm going to my son's school, or I have to go, blah, blah, blah. So I'm not asking you permission because I feel like if I ask you for permission, that gives you the right to tell me no. There is no such thing where my child is concerned because it's my responsibility. Robin, you said it first. Tracy, you said it. Jacqueline, you said it. It is my responsibility to take care of my children first because they have me. When my son was in high school, he had a problem with the teacher. And I used to tell my children all the time, it is not your responsibility to have a conversation with an adult. That's my job. So if you're having a problem with the teacher, then your responsibility is to tell me. If the teacher is not being fair to you, it's not your responsibility to go back and forth with them. That's my job. I can handle that. And I handle that. So yes, Jacqueline.
I just want to piggyback on that because my son going into middle school, I stay advocating for him for 6th and 7th grade, and the teachers really fought me on that, and the staff as well. They were, oh well, he's old enough, he should be able to advocate for himself. And I felt like at 11 and 12 years old, especially with a 504 plan and he's ADHD, I will never, because the moment that our kids start to advocate for themselves, they will become behavioral issues. They would try to suspend them for talking back or being disrespectful to the teacher. So I told them absolutely not. At 11, 12, even 13 years old, if my son has an issue with you as an adult, I will address you as an adult. And I'm not going to hear anything about, oh, well, he should be able to advocate for himself. No, that's what he has a mom for. That's what he has a dad for.
Absolutely.
No, absolutely advocate for your kids.
You have to. Absolutely. Thank you. Tracy, what one thing would you change? Education, as an educator and a parent, what would you change in the education system?
It's really loaded because like everybody else, I'm on the panel. I'm on both sides of the coin as a mother and as a parent. I'm going to speak as a parent first, and I think it's just reiterating what Ms. Jacqueline has said. And I'm going to say it this way: I don't put the sole responsibility of my kids being educated on the teacher.
Absolutely.
I believe that education starts
At home.
at home. Okay. When my children, both of them, learned how to read fluently at 3, where they weren't in school, I taught them how to read. I taught them letters and sounds. I taught them blending. I taught them, those first sets of sight words that they needed. When Maya went to kindergarten, we were in the middle of the pandemic. And her kindergarten teacher said, I don't know what you did with her at home, but she has surpassed all of the kindergarten sight words. She's on the first grade sight word list. By the end of kindergarten, she was reading on the second grade level. That was what I did at home. I don't, like Miss Jackie said, they're at school more than they are at home. So I'm working. I'm not in the classroom to see what the teacher's teaching, how the teacher's teaching, and all of that. They bring their work home, and I mean, they have the blessing of having a mother as a teacher, so I can look at their work and see what needs to be done and how, they need to be taught, and different strategies and things like that. But I'm not going to put that sole responsibility on a teacher like you're going to educate my child, you're going to teach my child, you're going to do this with my child. I Now I'm flipping over to the teacher side. You have that one child, or maybe you have 2 or 3 children at home that you're responsible for. Not only do I have my 2 or 3 children, my 2 girls that I'm responsible for, but I'm responsible for another 40, 38 children. So how, now I'm going to pose a question. How do you expect me to give specialized instruction and treatment of your child out of the 40?
So if you could
Where
change it,
everybody
what
is
would that
happy,
be?
where
What would
where
the
the
change
parent
be?
is happy, where the admin is happy, where the child is happy and don't feel like they're being, neglected or under attack.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what would you do to change? What would the one thing you do what change would you make?
For me, I think that parents and teachers, and I try to do this even now, try to build that bond and that relationship where we're not at each other's necks.
Working together.
The kid needs to see that we're on the same page, because your child sees that, your mama is barking at the teacher, and and if I get in trouble, I know my mama's going to come up there and get that teacher straight. Then
And I'm barking at the teacher as a child because I see my mama do it because my mama gonna side with me. What did she do to you?
Exactly right. Exactly right. So at that point, am I still supposed to be extra sugary sweet? My mother, blessed the dead, told me all the time, "You are so professional. You're more professional than I am." She said I couldn't do it. I would lose my job, because I'm not going to allow a child to come and be disrespectful, to an adult, or to the teachers at the school. You're there to learn. They are there to teach you. If you know more than them, then you don't need to be there.
I like that because there are a lot of students. I remember and Stephanie, I'm coming to you. I say the best for last because I know you got some stuff. One of my sister used to work at the school system, and she used to be, and I think Robin, you talked about those duties, having the duties where somebody's on door duty, somebody's on late duty, and she was on late duty when the kids would come to school late and they had to get a pass to get in class because they were late. And some of the stories she would hear, and this was elementary school. And some of the students would come and she was like, "Why are you late?" Well, me and my brother was at the jail last night. My mom and her boyfriend got busted. Or my mama kept me up all night because her and her boyfriend was fighting. And so these are real things that these kids are coming to school with. So imagine that's one, imagine 10 in one class. So they haven't slept, they're going through all this, and then they it's a keg, it's a powder keg. So and then you don't see the parents until, I think you said it, Robin, you said it, Desiree, all y'all said it, until there is a problem. And when there is a problem, you get a lot of times the parents come, especially in the public school system. It's a little different in the private sector, but the parents come and they want to know, first of all, my child don't act like that at home. I'm surprised because my child don't act like that at home, and where they get that from, and not my child. And so then you have a situation where the parent is not an ally. So the parents and the teachers are sparring. And like you said, Tracy, the student sees that and they know, okay, well, I can go in and treat my teacher any kind of way because I know my mom or my parents going to side with me, and I'm not going to get in any trouble with it. So I like that. So it needs to be communication and work together as a team. So Stephanie, what's the one thing that you would change? And we have about 3 minutes to talk about how things are a little different from the public school sector, because you came from a middle school, Clayton County, Riverdale Middle School for 16 years. And then you principal a charter school. So a whole different dynamic. And Kevin asked a question, what is the training like for new teachers? Or are they giving them adequate training? Or they say, hey, we got some new teachers, we short of staff here, get them in there and you learn as you go. So talk about that, Stephanie.
All right. So I'll start with the latter in terms of new teacher orientation. We can take teachers through new teacher orientation. You can come from the background of having educational training to be an educator. You can come from the private sector and transition into education, but nothing prepares you for when you set foot in that classroom and you have to encounter 20, 25, 30, 35 children that are looking at you, and you have to be prepared to educate them. Nothing prepares you for that. Now, one of the things that is super important, and this doesn't go with my list, but mentorship of having teachers that are seasoned, teachers not only that are seasoned, but do their job well. Supporting new teachers is vitally important. So the mentorship program within schools, within districts, is one of the basic fundamentals that is really going to help new teachers grow in a way that is going to be supportive of the overall mission and vision of the school district. The thing that I would like to see happen in school systems that is fundamentally going to change the way that we do education is about the relationships and building back of community within schools. When you build relationships not only with your students that are within your classrooms, but with parents, with other community members, to be able to bring in some of those things that we vitally need in order to support the overall school, it's going to change the way we do school. It's going to change the way we have parents invited to come in or feel like the school is open to them coming in and them having communication with their teachers and with the administrators or with whoever within in the building. One of the things that was very important at our charter school was for our parents to have a number that they can get in contact with the teacher. Not saying that the teacher is going to respond to you at 11 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, but there is another way besides emailing a teacher that you can get in contact with the teacher for your child. And that helped to once again broaden and build out the community and build out relationships. We had a phenomenal parent liaison that not only was she based in a way that made it open for the parents to want to contact her, but it showed that the relationship that she had with them transcended over within the teachers, within the classrooms, and with the administrators. So one of the things that is so important is that relationships matter. Understanding that not a lot of our parents, but some of our parents come from a negative experience in education. And when you know that, then you understand why they may respond to you in a way that is going to feel like it's confrontational, or feel like it's a challenge, or feel like they quite don't understand what the process is, or they feel that it should be done differently. And so being able to have that open communication and understand that I have your child's best interest at heart, that I know every last child in my building, I have a relationship, they can come and have a conversation with me as a principal, that I have an open door policy for both my parents, my students, my staff. It's so important to helping to run a building and run the community of the building in a different way.
Wow. 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 Listen, I thank you. Stephanie, thank you so much for that. Tracy, thank you so much for everything that you do. Oh my goodness. Desiree, thank you so much for everything. Jacqueline Cox, thank you so much, so much. And Robin, thank you so much, so much, so much. Listen, and yes, Tracy, if anybody on here is interested, if you're an educator, if you're a teacher, Tracy is doing an anthology for teachers, the 5 W's. And connect with her or connect with me, and I can connect you with her if you're interested in being a part of this anthology for education. Listen, guys, earlier today, I said thank you for your service. And you guys hit it on the nail. You guys hit the nail with the hammer, because what you do is so important. Stephanie and Desiree and I and Jacqueline and I have talked about that before. How many of you remember that teacher that made a difference in your life? How many of you remember the teacher that you loved and you talked about all the time and you cried in the summertime because you didn't get a chance to see her? How many of you? And then how many of you remember that teacher that was mean to you? And that teacher who was always picking on you and probably said you wasn't going to amount to anything. Teachers make a difference in our lives and in the lives of our children. So for that, I tell you, thank you for your service. Thank you for staying in the trenches, Tracy. Stephanie, thank you for not only just being a source of education and a resource, but of love and compassion and seeing the children as individuals and they have a heart. That's like, as a Christian, I have to see everybody's soul. So everybody has a soul, which means there's hope for everybody. So Kevin Vaughn, thank you so much for, we went way past our time, but thank you so much for your patience and for producing this show. Listen, guys, I believe that 100% of everybody living and dead has a story. And as educators, as parents, and even as parents, we're educators, right? We all have a story. And so you guys, if you're listening to this show, you've heard just a snippet of these stories. So what I want you to do, if you're listening to this story, at the end of the story, reach out to these ladies, reach out to Jacqueline Cox. Jacqueline Cox is doing some amazing things. Listen, Linda, reach out to Jacqueline and connect with her and collaborate with her on some of her projects. If you need a chef and you're in the Atlanta area, reach out to Desiree. Man, I mean, she can do some things in the kitchen, okay? Tracy has some books coming out. She has 3, and her baby girl has a book coming out. Reach out to Tracy and connect with her. Robin, we didn't get a chance to talk to her, but we can have some individual shows and talk about what you're doing. But you talked about insurance and tutoring and what you're doing to make a difference. Reach out to Robin and connect with her. You need insurance? We all need some insurance, okay? And Stephanie, listen, if you guys are in education, if you guys are the administrators and my education friends and my administration friends, reach out to Stephanie, because she is an amazing, invaluable resource that you need to have. And for those of you who are looking for a platform to connect on, to make sure that you get your message out and it is not convoluted, it is not watered down, reach out to Kevin Vaughn with the MLT Network. If you're Christian based too, and you're looking to get your message out, reach out to Kevin Vaughn. And listen, Miss Listen Linda has a podcast show. So each one of you ladies, sign up with Listen Linda, sign up with Jacqueline, and she's in what, 1,500,000 countries. Kevin is in 1,300,000 countries. So connect with them and continue to tell your stories. So I am Laquita Parks. I am the host of So What's Your Story? I also am the host of My Heart on Pages, and I am also the CEO and founder of PayProV Publishing, because 100% of everybody living and dead has a story. So I thank you guys. I thank you. Keep doing what you're doing. Our children need you. So when you guys start getting a little, start saying, okay, I can't take it anymore, remember your why. Remember your why. Remember why you got it. And I have to do that every day with PayProV. Okay, this is why I did. This is why I do it. Remember your why. Okay. Listen, if all hearts and minds are clear, I just want to say it has been a plump, pleasing pleasure. Better than a triple-decker peanut butter and jelly sandwich. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Until next time, be amazing. I love you. I love you. I love you. Thank you.
Thank you.